This is in reference to the betrayal from Senate Democrats tonight, choosing to cave on every single thing we've been holding out for during the government shutdown, completely capitulating to the Republicans, to the fascists. And before you tell me like, oh, Angela, it was just 8 of them. Well, people who have a lot more insider information than me are saying, actually, that's not true. There's a whole lot of Senate Democrats who probably were in favor of reopening the government and caving on everything. They just needed 8 of them to fall on the sword. That's why if you look at the list of the 8, you'll see how many of these are either retiring or are not up for re-election until 2028. Once again, I'm going to reference Ezra Levin from Indivisible because he and I are in alignment far more often than not. I think he's a real sharp and insightful individual, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He said, it's important to understand this. There's a reasonable chance that your Dem senator who voted against it and is acting mad now was in on the play. It's the same reason why they scheduled the surrender for after the election week. They didn't want people pissed at Dems right before an election. The talk around town is not that the meeting today for Democrats was to try and stop the vote, but it was to strategize for which 8 were going to fall on the sword, and I think they had 10 lined up. Does that mean all Senate Democrats were in favor of this betrayal tonight? No, I don't think so. But I think it does mean that when they tell you, I voted no, that doesn't mean that they necessarily were opposed to the government reopening or that they were necessarily opposed to throwing away all of our demands. The initial demands were restoration of Medicaid funding, restoration of Affordable Care Act subsidies permanently, and ending Donald Trump's tremendous rescission power that the Republicans handed over to him. And I said, and a number of other folks said way in the beginning, how come they didn't also make a demand that Donald Trump not be using the National Guard in our cities, militarizing this country, treating American cities as if they were military targets? And how come it also didn't include pulling back funding for the American Gestapo known as ICE, which is terrorizing communities all across this country? I already thought that the Democrats' demands were really fucking weak, but they were already the bare minimum. And there's a reason that the Democrats' approval ratings are just in the toilet. I have to stop swearing so much in my videos, y'all, because YouTube keeps trying to demonetize me. But a big part of why Democrats have such tremendously low approval ratings is because there is no trust. We do not trust that the Democrats have our back. We call Chuck Schumer controlled opposition, corporate establishment Democrats controlled opposition for a reason, because they behave like that. Once again tonight, they behaved in a way that proves, right? It proves the premise. They are not beating the allegations that they are controlled opposition and that they don't actually care about us and our lives. And they are beholden to their corporate and foreign donors and their dark money. And they will throw us and even American democracy under the bus. What happened tonight was a tremendous betrayal. Whatever shred of trust we had left has just been obliterated. And I don't care if you are a Democratic senator and you were like, but I didn't want this. I didn't vote for this. Cool. Then what you need to do is you need to be calling for Chuck Schumer to step down. You need to be working to remove him from leadership. That is the first thing you can do to reestablish trust. I have seen so many comments on my Blue Sky, now on my TikTok, all over Instagram and Facebook, people telling me I am no longer going to be, I'm going to deregister. I'm becoming an independent. I don't want anything to do. For me, this is the final straw. Just so many of y'all are commenting that. And as I said on Facebook, please don't do that. Please don't do that. I understand the temptation, right? It sucks. I have always been somebody who's been a registered Democrat. Because we have a 2-party system, we do not have a viable third party on a national level, and it will take years and years to build one. Do I think that our country would be much stronger if we had more than 2 parties? Because it would require us to have coalition governments. It would require us to learn to compromise and work together. Yes, but that's not actually what we have right now. And for all of the folks saying I'm done with the Democrats, I'm becoming an independent, please rethink this, because what happened tonight was corporate, corrupt establishment Democrats behaving in a way that is entirely in keeping with who they are. And a big part of the problem is that we are not primarying these guys out of a job. Stay registered with the Democratic Party and get really involved in the primary. Look at Zoran Mamdani. Look at how he was able to defeat a corporate, corrupt establishment Democrat, Cuomo, and get elected to be mayor of New York City. Let that be the lesson that takes you forward here. Organize within the party, organize to reform the party. I've been saying for months we need a Tea Party style takeover of the Democrats. That's far more realistic. That's much smaller of a lift than building a third party from scratch. Both of our political parties have overgone tremendous upheavals, revolutions, reformations throughout our nation's history. There's no reason that Democrats have to be a party that is in the pocket of AIPAC and dark money, billionaires, corporate profit. They don't have to be beholden to the billionaires over us. They could be a party for the people. We could have a populist movement. A Tea Party movement doesn't mean Sarah Palin-esque politics. It just means a populist takeover of the party. It could mean a democratic socialist takeover of the party. It could be that we want a Democratic Party that works for us, that advocates for universal healthcare. The fact that the minimum ask from Democrats in this shutdown was not universal healthcare, that it was just this little, let's restore Medicaid. JK, no. We aren't even going to ask for restoring Medicaid. We're going to just chuck that immediately. Affordable Care Act subsidies. Oh, wait. Actually, not those permanently, just for a year. Oh, actually, just kidding. Not those at all. Just a vote on whether we might have an extension, a vote that we know we will not be able to garner 60 votes for, right? This is who corporate Democrats are. And honestly, while I think we absolutely have to have a massive change in the party, we have to all be, I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm so sorry that we are fighting this war on two fronts. This is a fight for democracy on two fronts. We do not have a unified opposition party that is fighting on behalf of us and democracy. We have the Republican Fascist Party that is controlled by the billionaires, corrupt billionaires, controlled by dark money, controlled by foreign interest. And then we also have establishment corporate Democrats who are also controlled by dark money, corporate and foreign interest. This is why they're called controlled opposition. This is why so many people say, oh, well, both parties are the same. Because while there are progressive members of the Democratic Party, I think there are Democrats who really care and are really fighting for the right things. The leadership, especially Senate leadership, look at how they behave today. That is who they are. They capitulate. They're fucking Vichy France, right? That's who they are. If we want to overturn Citizens United, if we want universal health care, if we want wealth caps, if we want a country that works for us, if we want representative democracy where we have elected officials who work for us and our best interest rather than the best interest of the airlines and Walmart, then we have to be active in the primaries. We have to look at what happened in New York and think okay, we can do that elsewhere. We can do that elsewhere. So please don't deregister for your party, especially if you are in a state where you have to be a registered Democrat to vote in the primaries. Let's not be rash here. We need to be really strategic at this moment in time. And again, I'm really sorry that the reality is corporate Democrats, the Democratic leadership, they don't actually care about defending democracy that much. They care about their corporate donors. They care about all of the money that funds them and runs them. That is why the trust is so low. That's why so many Republicans believed the message of drain the swamp. That's why so many Republicans see the Democratic Party as the corrupt party. Because they are corrupt. They are corrupt. It's just that so many MAGA Republicans wrongly believed that Republicans were less corrupt or actually cared about them. Nope, they are kind of two sides of the same coin. As we saw tonight. Unless somebody still wants to come in here and tell me how this was 3D chess and it's going to magically work out for all of us. That this was a brilliant fucking move from Senate Democratic leadership and everything is magically going to be better. No. I want to talk about this in my next video. It was never going to be Senate Democrats that were going to save us. It never was. Chuck Schumer is a known quantity. Senate Democrats who take a shit ton of money from foreign interest, dark money, corporate interest, known quantities. We know where their priorities lie, whatever they're going to try and say now. Our distrust of them is earned. Their low approval ratings are earned. Does that mean all hope is lost? Nope. It means we have a great chance now. This is shining a bright light on the reality that the Democratic Party desperately needs reform. And it's terribly unfortunate that we have to do this at the same time that we're fighting fascism, but maybe this is the thing that had to happen. Maybe these things had to happen at the same time for us to feel pushed enough, motivated enough to actually do the work of reforming the Democratic Party. Maybe the straits had to be this dire before we would be willing to make the necessary moves. And yeah, it's exhausting, but we don't get to give up now. And every action that they take creates a chance for us to invoke a backlash against them, and also it gives us a chance to strategize and make our own moves. So that's what we need to do now. But don't do this.